I'm going to do my first ever channel review of a channel that's made for kids. Welcome to our latest paid channel review. If you want to get a channel review like this one, you can message me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and we can arrange something. It's very reasonably priced, and what you get is what you're about to see, a 45 to 60 minute long video full of action items for your specific channel. As well, we will be mentioning your channel. We put a link in the description, in the info cards, in the end screen, and we post it here on this channel so you can go back and watch it as many times as you want. So you might be asking yourself, why am I watching this if it's not for my channel? A lot of the tips that I give in these channel reviews apply to a lot of different channels, and so you're very likely going to see something in this video that would be helpful for you, as well as the targeted channel in question. So we'll just begin. This is a unique one. I've never done a children's channel before, so it's my first time reviewing a children's channel. That has some additional challenges because when your content is marked for children, there are some limitations. You get a little less functionality on the platform. You can't have comments. I believe info cards are disabled, a couple other things. So that can make growing an audience on YouTube a little harder for those sorts of channels. So that would be sort of today's focus. And just so you know, before I dive in, my YouTube might look a little bit different from yours. I'll quickly explain. For one thing, I have premium, so I don't have to deal with ads. And I also have it in dark mode because it saves power and it's easier on the eyes. As well, I have TubeBuddy installed, the browser plugin, and I have the legend level account. So I'm going to be using that in my channel review. If you don't have TubeBuddy, I strongly suggest you check the affiliate link down below. At the very least, go get the free version. You'll see some of the same functionality that you'll be seeing me use in this review. And so with that in mind, let's get ready to start the clock. I'm going to be reviewing a channel called Aiden and Dad. So I'm going to start the clock, and I like to begin these channel reviews as if I know nothing about the channel, because I don't, and I will be searching the channel and see how it comes up in search results, and I will go from there. First impressions, advice as we go. So starting the clock, let's dive right in. So first off, there's a few things going on here that is interesting, some good and some bad. So the channel name Aiden and Dad, when I first heard it, I didn't think that it had a very good SEO value, but I see in my browser plugin for TubeBuddy that it actually gives this particular channel name an excellent score for SEO. It gets an 81 out of 100, and that's because the search volume is good and the competition's relatively low, which is very good. And so that combines to an excellent score. So good plus very good in this instance equals excellent. So very good there. So let's start off with some first impressions. The channel profile picture, the channel logo, could use a little bit of work in my opinion. And everything here is my opinion. I give you free permission to use all of my ideas. You don't have to credit me or anything, although feel free if you like. So all these ideas are yours, free to use. But also, I don't want you to feel like you have to do anything specific I say. This is all advice. It is completely up to you whether or not you want to take it. But that's sort of why I'm here. So I'm going to kind of speak confidently about those things. But take it or leave it with a grain of salt, whatever you want. I'm not going to be checking in to make sure you did what I said. So don't feel like there's an obligation. So anyways, in terms of getting to the logo, there's a few things going on here. For one thing, it appears as if the white circle inside the black sort of outline is slightly off center. It's a nitpick. I don't have OCD, but I took a test, but I have tendencies. And so it feels like the white circle is just slightly down and slightly to the right off of center. It's very subtle. And so I would only notice looking at it this way. I'm using Firefox as my browser, if you're curious, and I'm on a desktop. And so that's a nitpick thing. The other thing is the font that's being used. I have a couple feelings about. One, generally speaking, and if you watch me on this channel, you see me talking about block fonts a lot so that they're easily read. And this is not that. And so I kind of have a mixed feeling about it because it's not super legible. At this resolution, it's good. But if you'll notice in the video results, the little version of that icon, you can't read anything. And so that's a bit of an issue. Also, I think one thing that's good about the font is that it looks like something that like a child of a certain age would have printed. And so that actually gets the aesthetic of the children's channel across rather nicely. And so that's good. And it's high contrast. You got black on white. That's a good thing. but in terms of readability, it's a little problematic. So I kind of like the font. Maybe you might want to experiment with it. You could try block font if you want, but I kind of like what you have there. What I would suggest is maybe not making the text curved the way it is, maybe just making it straight on and making it a little bolder, making the stroke a little thicker on the text so that it's easier to read at various resolutions. Another thing to consider is that there is no color in that profile picture. It is monochromatic, it's black and white. Very good for high contrast of text on a background, but one thing that I have noticed is I have observed children on YouTube, and I've sort of watched, like whenever I'm at a friend's place and their kid's on YouTube, I'm watching that kid out of the corner of my eye doing basically market research. And so one thing that I've really noticed is that kids are drawn more to really bright colors. And so I don't know that black and white would be as effective. And so maybe doing something to add a splash of color. So one thing that you might want to consider is maybe if you change the and to an ampersand in the logo possibly and put it in the middle so that maybe you can make everything a little bigger, and maybe like the ampersand will be blue or something, or just some sort of bold color just to add a splash of color to the logo to make it a little bit more enticing to an audience of a younger age. But like the font, I do really kind of like that font. It's evocative of like Simpsons and Ren and Stimpy and like those sorts of things. So like stylistically, I like it, even if legibility is a little low. And like looking in the thumbnails that we see in our search results for some of the it says the latest from Aiden and Dad, it looks pretty crisp in those thumbnails. It's just when the thing is really shrunken down. So one thing also to consider is the black outline. You might just want to remove that to give yourself those extra pixels where you can thicken up the text. So that's just some thoughts on the logo. So let's take a look here. So 479 subscribers with 130 videos. And what do we got here for description? Hot Wheels monster trucks, check. Model rockets, check. Random outdoor adventures, check. Come hang out with. I would say that's actually pretty good. I can be really savage when it comes to the first 40 to 120 characters of a channel description because people forget them and they often put in filler words or they don't consider SEO or they're repetitive. This is actually pretty good for the first 40 to 120 characters. Different devices will display a different number of characters in search results. So like on a mobile device, different resolution, different browser, you get only 40. And then in others, you get more like 120. So what this is doing pretty well is it's getting the point across quickly. And that's one of the goals of your description, especially at the beginning. You want to tell people what you're about. You want to entice them and maybe try and score some SEO keywords. And you've got most of those things going on here. I suppose the one thing that I would consider doing, just because those first 120 characters are so important, like the ... you could probably replace that with a single space. And so you could get a little bit more characters that will actually show in the results. Other than that, I mean, yes, you do say the word check over and over again, but it's like, it's a playlist checklist sort of thing. It's like, this is all the fun stuff we have. And so that's actually pretty effective. However, here's another thing to consider. What if we actually take that checklist and make it a bit more literal? What if you actually put icons in there that were check marks? You could either do that by having like sort of the characters that are check marks, or you might want to, and I haven't experimented with this much, actually try to put emojis in there. So that's something you might want to consider looking into. So instead of typing out the word check, you just put a check mark. And again, if you get like if you're able to display like a green check mark here, then you're adding more color, and it's those bright colors that seem to really entice the younger audience. And so it's another opportunity to sort of liven up the color scheme, which I think could be helpful. Otherwise, it's pretty good. Some things that are interesting is the capitalization is a little inconsistent. So Hot Wheels monster trucks all capitalized, models capitalized, rockets is not. So I would recommend going with consistent capitalization. And in this case, I would go pro capitalization. I would say capitalize rockets. Also, random is a problematic word. It can, like, in terms of like SEO, I think it scares off the algorithm because random is the opposite of what an algorithm wants. It wants consistency so it can properly categorize what your channel is about. And if it can't do that, then it won't show your channel to people, which of course you want it to do. That's how you get more impressions and more recommended. So I would drop the word random because I think that also when you're going to something new as a new audience member, as someone who knows nothing about your channel, random is not appealing because random means I don't know what I'm getting any more than the algorithm knows what it's getting. And so I would just say outdoor adventures, check. And so with these little things, we've removed some superfluous or perhaps even slightly harmful characters from the beginning of your description that allows you to have a little bit more space in there where you can get maybe a little bit more important content in there, even in the search results here. So that's just something to think about. Also looking here, I see a couple of thumbnails here. These thumbnails have some great things going for them, like the Groundhog Day, racing at the lake, winter. That is a great block font. The font you're using there, perfect, fantastic, chef's kiss if I could do the thing. And so that's great, and you've got a nice thick outline around it, but not like grotesquely thick, and so that's fantastic. I think that's really good. And so as much as I was going on about how much I like the font in your logo, having a consistent font that appears sort of in the thumbnails as well as in the logo might help with brand recognition. Again, considering also that your audience being primarily children, everything you can do to make that brand recognition easy and positive for younger minds, that aren't necessarily going to go search you out. You need to make it easy for them. So that's something to think about. But I really like the font that you're using there, and the way that you're using it is very effective. I'm not sure that having your channel logo in the thumbnail is helpful. One thing that is important for everyone to remember, not just this channel, is your thumbnail is for strangers. Your thumbnails are not really for your core audience, your subscribers, your true fans. That's not really what the logo is generally about. Now, for children, maybe a little bit more because of the brand recognition, but you've got the face of presumably Aiden there, and so that's the brand, I think, is the face, and the font you're using. And also, I notice you have a colored outline, which you kind of have things overlap over, which is a very nice dynamic graphic effect. I think that's good. So they can consistently spot that. One thought that I have is you might want to make that outline border a little brighter because it is a somewhat muted kind of pastel color. And again, the children seem to respond better to bright primary colors. So for example, on the gaming channel, Scott the Waz, he has a blue outline around all of his stuff, basically. Very consistent, very bright, vibrant blue. I'm not saying that's necessarily the color you want to go for here, but if it can work in a channel like that, then I think it's just another opportunity to bring those colors up. And let's talk about the colors a little bit as well. So you've got some good coloring here on like the text, but again, I think the vibrance and the color saturation on the text could be brought up a little bit. So if you're using Photoshop, it's very easy to bring the vibrance and the saturation up. You could bring it up 25 points, see how it looks. Something I often do. And you could also consider doing that with the images as well. So, for example, I'm seeing that the blue top is fairly bright. So I wouldn't go too far in increasing the color saturation on the actual image. Maybe 10 points, a little bit. One thing that I've noticed is when I upload a thumbnail into YouTube, YouTube compresses it. And that compression, in my experience, from what I've observed, causes some of the saturation to bleed out. Your colors get a little bit more muted in that process. And so I think that it is absolutely fair to compensate for that by increasing your saturation, your vibrance a little bit before uploading so that when the compression happens, it still looks bright and natural in that case. So that's just something to think about. And so it's interesting. You've got the Hot Wheels monster truck logos there. I think that works. But again, with your logo there, I feel like the image is a little too busy. And so if you replaced your logo and moved the monster trucks, like on that first Groundhog Day one, for example, if you put the monster trucks logo up where the channel logo is, it would stand out more because right now it's blending a little bit into the orange of the racetrack. And so it looks a little busy. I think if you move that up, that would be great. Another thing that you may want to consider or may not, because it could darken the image, is a slight drop shadow on some of your elements. So the text you have, where it says Groundhog Day, great, because it's got the stroke. A slight drop shadow might make it pop just the tiniest bit more. I think there might actually be a slight glow around it, a little white. I would actually go in the other direction and go with like a dark gray, as possibly a slight drop shadow to make it pop against the vibrant background. And so similarly, there's the beaver character that's in the Groundhog Day thumbnail. A little drop shadow around that could make that pop because right now he's blending into the border and he's easily missed. But that's actually a really strong element of the thumbnail because it's a fun, expressive, smiling, wide-eyed cartoon character that I think would appeal to children. And so making that pop just the slightest bit could make a bit of a difference. And so anyways, that all having been said, I don't want to sound like I'm harshing on your thumbnails. Your thumbnails are actually really, really strong. And so I think you're doing quite well there. I would check out and look at your CTR because I would imagine it's fairly good. If you can get a CTR into like the 7, 9, 10% range, your channel will take off at that point. But when you're sort of 5% and below, you might not be performing as well as you could, and it's kind of possibly doing a slight disservice to your channel. So something to keep in mind is look into your analytics and see what your CTR is on these and other thumbnails before you start changing them and listening to me, because ultimately your audience's interaction with the thumbnail is what's paramount, not what some, YouTube guy told you in a channel review. And so you need to listen to your audience because they're far more important than I am. And so there's a couple of ways that you can do that using TubeBuddy. Now, this does require a legend level plan, which is their most expensive plan, but we've got a discount code that you can use that'll save you 20%. It's SYBBuddy. So it's short for Small YouTubers Boost Buddy. SYBBuddy, save you 20%. Also, if you buy a year at once, saves you another 20%. But if you get the legend level, it gives you access to two really important tools that are game changing. And the one that I really enjoy is called Click Magnet. If you run Click Magnet on your channel, it will look at your last 50 or so thumbnails, and it will do a detailed analysis on what's working and what's not. And I'm not just talking ranking them by CTR. This is far more in depth. It will tell you, is it better to have a face on the thumbnail? Should the face be a close-up or a wider shot? Should it be a landscape shot without a face? Should there be text? What words in the text are people more likely to click on? What expressions on the face? A smile, a shocked face, a thinking face, whatever it is, a sad whatever. It will tell you what emotions get the clicks as well. And this isn't generic. This is specific to your thumbnails and your audience and the people who have clicked on your thumbnails. And so everyone's results on Click Magnet will be a little different. It is absolutely customized to your channel. Once you have that information and maybe you want to start experimenting with thumbnails, it's really difficult sometimes to know what a better thumbnail is. If you've been searching for YouTube advice, and I suspect you have since you've kind of hired me to do this, you've probably seen a lot of people say things like, just make better thumbnails, bro. I got it the other day. Someone's like, you need to work on your thumbnails. And I'm like, that doesn't help me because it's not specific. Where Click Magnet is specific, it will tell you exactly what you need to do in terms of those things I was mentioning, text, emotions, faces, and what kind of shot to use, all of that. But once you start experimenting, how do you know if the new one's better than the old one? A great way for that is the other legend level TubeBuddy function that I strongly recommend that is also absolutely game-changing for channels is A/B testing. You can have two different thumbnails show up on your channel for one video for a period of a minimum of 10 days. And basically every day it'll show a different thumbnail and it will gather data on what is more effective and in what ways, what gets more clicks, what results in more retention and things like that. It can give you very detailed information. It's absolutely fantastic. So you can know based on data and real experience, not just one dude's opinion, which thumbnail is actually performing better for you. And the great news is that changing your thumbnail has no impact on something I call algorithmic momentum. When your video or your channel is going and it's getting, lots of impressions and a good CTR and all this kind of stuff, you don't want to mess with it. You do not want to change the title, description, or tags on a video that is performing well, because you risk the algorithm slamming on those brakes and saying, wait a minute, you changed something. Is this still accurate? Do I really know what this video is about? And so that can actually harm your growth if you do that. So, but the good news about that is that thumbnails aren't part of that. You can change the thumbnail without impacting that momentum. The momentum will keep going at its previous rate, even if you're changing the thumbnail. So you can experiment with your thumbnails with reckless abandon, gather that data and figure out what really works, because CTR can be one of those turnkeys to channel growth all on its own, potentially. I strongly recommend doing all the other things I'm going to be talking about and have already. I adamantly believe that success on YouTube takes like 100 things, but not all things are equal. I don't think like tags are quite as important as CTR, for example. So CTR is one of those pillars, those really strong components of improving channel growth. And so that is definitely something that experimenting with might not be a bad idea. I noticed that you're uploading in 4K, which is great. That gives you a little 4K tag. And you have something you've uploaded just 13 hours ago. It has that new tag on there. And so you're going to want to upload at least once a week if possible to try and get some of that algorithmic momentum going. Earlier, I said that you don't want to change the title, description, or tags on videos that are performing well. That having been said, updating those on videos that are not performing well could be a good idea. But how do you determine well versus not great? My general advice, and it's different for every channel because everyone's at different parts of their journey, but generally speaking, if your video is getting less than 100 views per month, go ahead and play with it. You're not going to lose a lot. And taking those risks, the risk to the benefit, it makes sense there. But when you're getting more than 100 views per month, that's 100 people every month that could be new audience members on just that one video. I would probably leave it be in terms of title, description, and tags. But of course, like I said, you can experiment with those thumbnails. Just looking at some of the video descriptions that are coming up here. So the first one says Groundhog Day with 3 exclamation points. I think 3 is a bit much. Again, those characters. You'll see that it cuts off the description in the search results. So if you just have 1 exclamation point, then a little bit more characters start showing at the beginning. And those beginning characters are very important for enticing your audience and explaining what your video is about. You can worry a little bit more about SEO and keywords a little later in the description. But for those first, like again, about 120 characters, really want to be strategic about those. So even taking out those 2 characters could help. Hot Wheels Monster Truck Racing, Tournament of Champions, that's great. EP 53, which I presume stands for episode 53, bad idea. That is a turnoff. Now, it is fine to include that a little later in the descriptions, and also you want to have playlists if you don't, and I'll look into that later if we have time. And so you'll want to put these things that have episode sequences in a playlist so that if someone wants to watch them in a sequence, they can do so very easily in the appropriate order. Nothing frustrates people quite like going to a playlist and the whole thing is out of order. I like to watch Pat Contry, his Wednesday streams on Twitch, where he basically does commentary of old commercials, and when a playlist isn't in sequence, whoa, he loses his mind, and I think rightly so. And so having that playlist is important, but if there's an episode number, I'd put that on like the 3rd line of the description and no sooner. Because when people see something like that, they're like, wow, this is episode 53. Like, would you start watching a TV show halfway through the 3rd season? Probably not, especially these days where it's all, sort of episodic. And so what I would suggest is kind of not putting that too early on because it can turn people off. Because then they're like, oh, I got to go watch episode 1. Now I got to go find episode 1. I don't want to do that work. And this is like an adult speaking. So imagine that amplified through the eyes of a child. They're not necessarily going to want to. And so if the first thing they do is they click on a video and maybe the person's talking about something that they don't get, that could be off-putting. And this is sort of the text version of that. So I would push that a little bit lower. We head off to the park to see if and so that's what I'm saying, take out a couple exclamation points, the episode thing, and then maybe we can get a little bit more of that enticement to see what. And even just a couple more words in that description could make me more interested in clicking on it. Let's see the next one here. Hot Wheels Monster Truck Racing episode 52. Again, the same episode thing. Push it down to the 3rd line. We're using our brand new Hot Wheels Super 6 lane raceway in this video, Aiden. That's pretty good. Again, 3 exclamation points, probably more than you need. 1 is probably sufficient. And in this video, just cut that phrase out. Just go straight Aiden, whatever. It's filler. It's like the or the so, because I say so all the time. It's a bad linguistic crutch of mine. It fills space. It has no SEO value, and it actually has no enticement to the audience. So I know I'm being very, very picky, but again, those first 120 characters can be critically important from a psychological standpoint. Anyways, enough about the search results page. I've been on here for 20 minutes. Let's actually go into the channel and take a look around. I'm just going to pause the trailer here, and I keep everything on mute. This is partly because I don't have time to watch videos, and if you want a video review, we can discuss that separately. And also, I don't want to get into issues of copyright, etc. So this is sort of interesting. I have to say, and I'm going to be a little harsh here, so brace yourself, but if I'm just here being nice all the time, you're not going to get value out of this. I'm disappointed with the banner. What I saw from your thumbnails, what I saw from your channel logo, I was looking forward to a really professional banner, and I'm sorry to say that this isn't it. I mean, you have some game, don't get me wrong, some things here that are kind of good, but there are some kind of glaring issues with this. I think I'm going to start with the most obvious and the most graphic because it just feels Lazy is a harsh word, but it feels incomplete, like it's not finished. So, for example, looking at this big four-wheeler thing here, this monster truck, there is clearly a little bit of the original image that should have been erased out in Photoshop or whatever you're using. So that little bit there looks unprofessional, and these sorts of things, like, why is it important to look professional? Why do I care about capitalization and stuff like that? Especially if your audience is children, you might be wondering. And for one reason is that your audience might be children, but potential future sponsors won't be. And so if I'm a company, if I'm Hot Wheels and I wanted to send you the new hotness, the new toy of next Christmas to review early or something, and maybe sponsor one of your videos, I don't know if that's something you'd be interested or a goal you have, but I think you'd be excited if you got that email. And so, but if I go in and I see this, I'm like, okay, like that's clip art, like, or that's a PNG you just got off of, a search engine or something, rather than it being your own image is a little dicey. Now, that having been said, it can be hard to get really professional shots yourself. So there's a time and a place to use whatever. And so these little things, like just cleaning up these little graphic elements, there's a dot here floating in space. There's a white bit on presumably Aiden's head here on the side and at the top of the faux hawk or the mohawk or whatever that is. And like a little bit here on the side of the rocket, a bit down here where his hand is holding the rocket. They're little things, but just cleaning that up a little bit would really kind of improve that first impression that a business might have versus your actual audience. Because the thing that I think a lot of companies probably struggle with when they're looking for channels to sponsor, especially if they're doing this niche micro-targeting where you're a micro-influencer, but they can get a lot of value over little cost. Like a free sample will generally get them a video. They don't necessarily have to pay you to review it. They'll just send you a free one. Free channel, like for smaller channels, that's not a bad deal. Or they'll pay you a small amount, but if you do well in SEO, they can dominate search without having to buy Mark Roper or something for an hour. So that can be really a good business deal for a company. But the thing is when they're looking at those smaller channels, there's a lot of, I'm going to be harsh here, trash. There's a lot of trash. And I'm not saying that's what you are, but I'm saying that there's so many copycats out there. There's so many channels that like go and steal other people's videos under Creative Commons, repackage them and re-upload them, that the people running them might not be very professional. And so they have to, that's a signal to noise problem. And so you want to stand out and appear to be different from that by taking the time to do the little things right to show that professional edge. So let's talk a few things more about here. Like, I think like the monster truck images themselves and even the rocket ship, this thing over here looks fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That is clean. That is okay. And the monster truck images, like they look good and professional. If you took those shots, amazing. But given the elements that weren't cleaned up, I doubt you did. And so just clean that up. That's fine. If you can do your own, fantastic. If you try and they don't look this good, maybe just stick with what's there, just with a little cleanup. And so some other elements here. You've got the logo again, which is fine. And you've got this new videos every Saturday. Now that is, there's going to be a difference of opinion out there. Some people really believe in the upload schedule. I personally do not. And here's my reasoning. If people know that your video comes out every Saturday, why do they need to subscribe with notifications turned on? They know when your videos come out. They just go to your channel on Saturdays. And then so that could be part of their thinking. And then they start to forget. And then suddenly they're not your audience anymore. They moved on. And the algorithm sees that they're not one of the last 100 videos they watched. None of them are yours. They're going to stop recommending your channel to them. And you've got what's sometimes referred to as a dead subscriber. And it's through the most innocent way in the world. You were trying to be upfront about having an upload schedule. You're trying to have a commitment, stick to it, and be transparent. And that all sounds great. But in practice, if your upload schedule is secret, if you don't come out and tell people, then they have to subscribe with notifications on because you will provide an incentive for them to do so because they don't know when the next video is coming and they don't want to miss it. And so by doing that, you're disincentivizing people to subscribe with notifications on. That's my thinking. There's other schools of thought out there, but that's my personal opinion. Also, you've got a big subscribe icon there. Problematic for a couple of reasons. One, that does nothing. That's just part of your logo. I click on that and nothing happens. Whereas there is a subscribe button just below that actually works. Why are you competing with the button that works and will actually get you subscribers? Take it out. As well, it's kind of clip arty. It looks like something that you searched on a search engine, downloaded the PNG, and just plopped it on there. And so again, those knockoff channels, those cheap, those quickly made channels, those channels that don't have the effort of the professionalism, they do stuff like that. And so, and this is going to sound really harsh, both to you and to them, but rise above that. Be better than them. And so what I would recommend doing is remove the upload schedule, remove the subscribe button, maybe bring the rocket in a little bit. And then if you have more social links, you could put more social links in there, or in the future, if you develop them and grow, then you can have more links that won't get into the way of covering up that rocket. Now, of course, I am looking at your banner from the perspective of I'm on a desktop using Firefox, all that. People will also want to look at this on mobile devices and things like that to make sure that it looks great on all devices. So I leave that to you. That's a task I'm giving you. If you haven't already, is check it out on your phone. Check it out on like your TV and your gaming console. Everything that you can look on at a website on, check out your channel and see how it looks. Or if you want to save time, you can actually just search for templates about these where you can get a properly sort of aspect ratioed image that has the right dimensions. And what I would do when I use like Photoshop, for example, is I'll put that as an extra layer, and then I'll make it like 50% transparent so I can see where all the lines are. So like, oh, this box is mobile, and this box is like, desktop, and this box is TV or whatever. And watch those lines carefully just to make sure that the lines don't cut across any image that you don't want cut off. So for example, if the last 3 letters of subscribe got cut off, it wouldn't look good on that device. Or, I know Aiden's in the middle there, but if he was off to the side and it cut his face in half, that wouldn't look great either. And so when you are tweaking your banner, if you decide to make any changes, whether based on my recommendations or otherwise, make sure that you take that one moment just to make sure that it's going to look good on all devices. It doesn't have to take a lot of time, depending on the software you're using. I'm a Photoshop guy. I don't know how I would do that in other things. In our group, there's like Canva experts. Maybe they can help you with that. That's not me. That was just some feedback there, but I do think, I think there's some good things. One thing that your banner does very effectively is it does give me a pretty good idea what you're about. It's got Aiden right there. It's got a bunch of toys. This is going to be about a kid playing with toys with this channel. Monster trucks and rockets and things. Pretty cool. In fact, it's smart because you've got him there holding one of each. So I think that there are elements of your banner that's good. I don't want to come down too harshly on that. And I want to tell you the full story, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So there are some good things that you have happening there. Another possible thing to avoid the clip art look is also possibly a little drop shadow on the elements. Maybe, maybe not. Play around with it and see what works well. So I see here that you have a channel trailer. It says, welcome to Aiden and Dad. Welcome to our brand new channel where Aiden and Dad play with toys, launch model rockets, and go on random outdoor adventures. So again, in advance, I apologize once again for being harsh, but if I'm just here being nice to you and saying nice things, then I'll make you feel good, but I won't help you very much at all. So I'm going to be a little harsh. So some things going on here. Welcome to our brand new channel, says the description of a video posted 1 year ago. I know, kind of savage. The thing is that like using the word new is dicey. There was actually a period of time, I think it was back in like the late 80s, early 90s, where there was a legal definition, if I'm not mistaken. I think Ralph Nader had something to do with this being codified temporarily into U.S. law, where the word new had an actual legal definition, and it was 6 months. And so if you had a product that was more than 6 months old, you couldn't legally call it new anymore. I don't think that's still in force of law. I haven't followed it because I'm Canadian partly, but I remember watching something about it years ago I found fascinating. And so for me, my litmus test of new in terms of like this kind of stuff is if it's older than 6 months, it ain't new no more. And so when you're writing, descriptions and titles and tags, I would avoid the word new unless you are talking about a new product, a new policy change, something like that in your video content. But if you're just saying this is our new video, it's going to be made untrue in a week's time if you publish every Saturday, because next Saturday, that's going to be your new video. It's not going to be your newest video anymore. So I'm nitpicking a little bit here, but just to make the point. And welcome to our brand new channel. From an SEO standpoint, that has no value and it doesn't really entice us. So if instead you said, welcome to the place where Aiden and Dad play with toys, launch model rockets, and go on outdoor adventures. How about that? Feel free to use that verbatim if you like it. That shortens it, and then you can immediately start your next sentence right at the end where you begin to say something else. Now, there might be a couple schools of thought as to what looks more professional. Having a description that nicely, cleanly ends, or that has those 3 dots so you know there's more to it. I am personally of the thought that having those 3 dots entices the click. Maybe I want to know how that sentence ends. If you can make me curious and tease it a little, that can actually be a very effective way of getting a click. So you could say something like, I don't know how you could pivot, what you could pivot to necessarily, but like, I don't know, like, you could just say like, maybe cite an example. You could be like, oh, the crazy time the rocket And then, like, if that's where the 3 dots are, the rocket did what? Did it explode? Did it go into the neighbor's yard? What happened? If you could do something like that, that's kind of next level stuff, and it might not be worth investing tons of time, but it is just something to think about sometimes if you're struggling with, what do I write next in my description? So let's take a look here more at the channel. So we have, I think, this channel layout, and again, I'm going to be harsh here because it's effective, is incomplete to me. You have shorts and you have uploads, and that is not enough. So I know you have over 100 videos. It showed me that in search results. And so have you been putting them in playlists? I mentioned earlier I was going to talk about playlists. Well, let's go take a look. So, okay, we've got some playlists. We've got outside a single word playlist. Again, outside adventures, even that would help a little bit to add that second word to make it a little bit more of a longer tail keyword. Model rockets, cool. If all you're doing is launching them, then maybe launching model rockets. But if you're also building them, then maybe just model rockets is fine. And so that's fine. You got shorts. You got 44 shorts. So it looks like you're really just investing in those shorts quite a bit because shorts haven't been around in a super long time. So actually, how old is this channel? November of 2020. Okay. So this is sort of a pandemic baby channel, I suppose, in the sense that the channel was birthed in the pandemic, which is interesting. And you got Hot Wheels Monster Truck Racing. 53 videos, right, because of episode 53. Okay, so what's great about these playlists is that every single one of these playlists has at least 6 videos, which means they are all potentially what I call ready for prime time, which means they could be ready for placement on your homepage. That doesn't necessarily mean they all need to be or should be there, but that's something to think about. And so going back to the home, actually, well, hold on a second here. I'm doing some math. Let's see. You got 9 videos there, 11 videos there, 44 videos there, 53. So it's 117 maximum videos in playlists. Just going back to the search results. That's what I thought. That is what I thought. You have at least 13 videos that do not appear in playlists. I'm nitpicking here, and I'm checking your math, and I'm checking your work, because, I don't know, teachers got to do it. But the thing is, every single one of your videos needs to be in a playlist. It helps you algorithmically. It helps you in terms of search engine optimization. So I do strongly recommend that. And let's talk a little bit more about playlists. Let's go. I'm going to view the playlist here. I'm not going to play it. There is no description for this. So here's the thing. Your video, all of your videos have so many opportunities to acquire a better optimization for search. And so one of those things, like there's the ones that I think we all know somewhat intuitively. They're obvious. People talk about them all the time. Title, description, and tags. I can't tell you how many times I said that today alone. But there's more than that. The playlist that it's in and the description of that playlist is part of that SEO. It's not as big a part as the title and the description by any means. I think it's probably about akin to tags, maybe even slightly more important than tags. But also your playlist is searchable just like your channel and just like your videos. So you want to optimize the playlist as well to get views. This playlist has 105 views. That means 105 people have clicked on this to watch the playlist. If you could get that number up on a playlist with 9 videos, let's say we could get you another 100 views on this. And if they watched it all the way through, 9 videos, 100 people watching the playlist, that's 900 views. That would be a nice little shot in the arm for the channel, right? Like, how many channel views do you have? So you got 100,000. That's cool. And so, but that would still not be an insignificant number. So how do you do that? How do you get your playlist showing up in search results more? Part of it is by keeping SEO and keywords in mind in your playlist. So your title here, if it's outside adventures, even that alone is better than outside with, again, 3 exclamation points. I think 1 will do. And then in the description, you could say, and repeat it. Repeating yourself in different fields is part of how you achieve something I call keyword alignment. So if you say outside adventure in the title of the playlist, and then in the description you say outside adventures, and then you say, Aiden and Dad go on amazing adventures from pumpkin patches to catfishing. Catfishing has a couple different meanings, maybe not that. Let's say from pumpkin patches to our first time camping to having a snowball fight, we always have fun outdoors, and we want to show you how to have safe, fun family adventures in your own neighborhood, or whatever you might want to say. And so when you go in to write your your description of the playlist, you got like 5,000 characters, I think, and that can be a lot. And so, but you know, the thing is, when you have those opportunities to basically write little blog posts, sometimes they feel like novels, or novellas, I suppose. But when you have an opportunity, whether it's in your video description or your playlist description or your channel description, if you can just sit down and, even if it's stream of consciousness, get the good stuff at the very beginning, because that shows up in search results, and then from there, just kind of type out your thoughts, then as you go through it, you're going to be either intentionally or accidentally slipping in keywords all over the place. So, you know, if you start talking about, like, you know, you could follow the rule of 3, you know, like I said, from pumpkin patches to camping to snowball fights, whatever. And then you could just talk about, like, why you do it. What's your philosophy? How do you do it safely? Is it all about family fun, bonding time, whatever it might be? You could talk about, like, if you're able to incorporate your why into that, that can be helpful, because whoever reads that far down, they might be looking for an emotional attachment. And so if they see that your why aligns with their values, they might be more likely to become what's known as a true fan. A true fan is someone that watches everything you put out and buys everything you sell. And that number can be important, because the theory of true fans is this. If you can get 1,000 people that watch everything you put out and buy everything that you recommend or you sell, if you can figure out how to extract $100 of value from each one of those people every year, then you're probably making enough money to live off of. And then it can become kind of the day job. I don't know if that's a goal of yours or a dream or a wish or just something to be a happy accident, or maybe you don't care at all. But one of the ways that you get those true fans is by forming those deeper connections where they see their values reflected in the things that you write and the things that you do. And then they want to support you and be part of your journey because they see themselves in you. Maybe they see something that they aspire to. Maybe they wish they were a better dad, or they wish that they took their kid out to more adventures, or they could do some of the stuff that you guys do. Maybe it's that, or maybe they're just like you and they feel that kinship, whatever it might be. But if you don't explicitly say in words why you spend this channel, like, you paid me to do this review, there is clearly a why that's driving you. Why would you spend money on something you don't care about? If you can articulate that, if you can get that down to like a sentence, that can be very powerful. You don't want to necessarily put it right at the top, because the beginning of these descriptions is for search results and strangers. But into that third line, that second paragraph, when you can pivot into something like that, that's when you can really start to form those bonds with the audience that could pay off over years. And so that is true for all the playlists. So all the playlists should have a description. And I suspect that none of these do, but it's easy. If you're logged in and you just come into this page yourself, there will be a simple little edit button here where you can edit the titles and descriptions of your playlists. And so that can help. And there's no silver bullet. I'm not saying any one of these things on its own will do everything for you, but when in, all conjunction and all the little things, they all give you a little advantage, and that starts to add up and snowball after a point. And you're almost at the community tab. And so you're very close to a very important goal. And one way you can measure that is TubeBuddy has the milestone sort of tracker and documents. So you can see how close you are to the next sort of arbitrary milestones they came up with. You can do this both here on desktop and on the mobile app. And I like that. I can see that, okay, I only need 13,000 more views to get to 1 million views on my Vacation Impossible channel. That's exciting and that's motivating. And I like kind of keeping an eye on that. And I think that, like, when I achieve it, I plan on taking some of the people in my channel out to dinner. We're going to go to like Olive Garden and celebrate 1 million views, because that's how I roll. And so that kind of stuff is exciting. But in particular, as I was mentioning, at 500 subscribers, that's when you get the community tab. And so I'm not sure how that works on a kid's channel, if that functionality is all the same. But if it is, that could be a potential way to engage with your audience. So, and that's the other thing too, is I know I was talking about the why, and that's very adult, where your audience is more children. But the fact is, there's a lot of involved parents that want to know what their children are watching, and they're going to look, and they're going to want to look and dive deeper, because some of the reasons, and I don't want to go too deep into this, but some of the reasons that on children's channels, things like comments are disabled is because there were some inappropriate things going on with inappropriate people. And I don't want to get into too much detail. You can look that up on your own. I suspect you already know. And so as a result of the attention that got, and even before that, parents might take a look. And one of the ways a parent can very easily try to figure out, is this an okay channel to let my kid watch? Click the About page, give it a read. And so why are you making these videos? I talked about people forming an emotional connection, but for some parents, maybe suspicious or helicopter or concerned or just involved parents, it doesn't have to be nefarious. It can be a very loving place that it could be coming from, where if you can explain the why, and if that why aligns with their values, they're going to be like, And I mean, we've all seen it. We've all been there at one time or another as parents where, you need to distract the kid. I remember my kid was getting a vaccine years ago and I needed to distract him. And this was years ago, so I'm going to date myself here. I had my PDA with me and I had downloaded a Thomas and Friends video on it. And so I had him watch that over here while his arm was being injected over here. And the process went a lot more smoothly. And so we've all had those moments where we're waiting in line or, they're at the bank or something. And you might hand the tablet or the phone or whatever over to the kid. And so it could be like, hey, watch this Aiden and Dad video. I've got it queued up for you. So while the kids are probably your primary audience, the parents are an important gateway to that. And so if they can see the why here and they see that there is a why, and the thing is, in the absence of information, people will suspect the worst. And when you're trying to protect your children, that's all the more stronger. And so if they have any reservations, any suspicions, any concerns, having an alternative narrative as to why you're doing this and who you are can help. So again, on its own, not going to be a huge influence necessarily, but all these things start to add up over time. And so we want to get the parents as much as we want to get the kids. We get the kids through things like thumbnails, bright colors. We get the parents through targeted social sharing on places like Reddit and Facebook and Twitter. Some things to think about. Anyways, getting back to the point that I was trying to make, 20 minutes ago, the channel layout does feel incomplete because there are no curated playlists here. Now, one of the things that people are looking for, whether it's consciously or subconsciously when they're on the internet, is not just content creators who give them information or entertainment or make them feel something, but they also want things that are curated, that they don't waste their time on, that align with their values. And this does not have curation because it doesn't show me, even though I know you have playlists, it doesn't show me you put that effort in and doesn't make it easier for me. So what I would strongly recommend is put these playlists, not the shorts one necessarily, partly because it's already there, but outside adventures again, or outside experiences, whatever you want to call it, Model Rockets, and the Hot Wheels Monster Truck Racing. These 3 playlists should each be on your homepage as a horizontal row. And so you want to go into your settings to do that. It's pretty easy and straightforward to do it. When you're logged in here, there's a customized channel button you can click. It'll take you straight to that screen. And you just want to click Add Single Playlist, choose it, Add Single Playlist, choose it, Add Single Playlist, choose it. And then you can also drag the order because the order can be important as well. And so you have your shorts up here as the first sort of full playlist. Another option that I would recommend enabling that you can add in a very similar fashion to a playlist is your popular videos. What that will do is it will select all of your videos, rank them by what has the most views, and then put it here. And the great thing about it is once you set it, you can forget it, and YouTube will update it over time. So as one video gets more views than another, they'll resort on their own. And so your top performing videos that do well will be on the face of your channel, better representing you and your brand, and more likely to get those clicks. And if somebody wants to see what you're about, again, say a parent trying to evaluate if they want their kid to be watching your channel on a regular basis or whatever, they can see, okay, this is their most popular video. This is what they're known for. And so if there is something there that's out of place, like if this is a Hot Wheels channel, but their most watched video is about cryptocurrency, that would be a red flag. But if your channel is not like that, and I suspect it's not, this looks very consistent and wholesome to me, but let's make that very transparent to those parents out there. And also, like, the kids sometimes will be like, oh, this is the thing that's got lots of views. I want to be at the cool party. I want to see the exciting thing. Show me the best movie. I don't necessarily want to watch the prequel Star Wars. I want to watch the best ones. Whatever, philosophy is behind that. Let's take a quick look at your popular videos just to see what that would kind of look like a little bit. So yeah, you've got a 16,000, 15,000, 13,000, 12,000. So these are vanity metrics from a certain standpoint, and they can be kind of impressive. But again, let's think about that company that might come looking and possibly want to partner with you for something. Maybe there's a competitor to Hot Wheels, a startup or something, and they've got these amazing toys, or maybe like they've got these science toys and like it kind of works with a rocket ship theme, whatever it might be. And they can see when you work with a sponsor, you really shouldn't be selling views because they can just go run ads for a certain number of views. And people often, I think, as channel creators, they get focused on that. And it's not, you're not selling your audience, you're selling yourself. So you're selling your ability to be professional, to have a nice presentation, to have good SEO, things like that. That's actually where I think the sponsorships really begin, because I've been sponsored several times for different videos, posts, Facebook groups, all sorts of things, even my podcast. I've never once asked for a sponsorship that I got. They all came to me because like there's products that I've been sponsored for where they went searching on their core keywords for that product. My videos came up and they were like, instead of competing with this guy, let's just get him to make the video for us. And so they get a lot of bang for their buck that way. But them seeing that you do get results in numbers can influence that process in a positive way. So having those popular videos up there front and center, it serves a multitude of purposes. It makes the channel feel more filled out, more professional. The kids can be at the cool party and the companies can see that you can get an audience. That's all good. And so also, you know, I mean, presumably if these are getting lots of views, they've got a good CTR. So, you know, these thumbnails perform well, more likely to get more clicks, people staying on your channel, get more watch time. It's all good. So the order in which you put them on your homepage is somewhat up to you. But I think let yourself be influenced by what performs well and consider putting that at the top. Here's the thing. Shorts are kind of the new toy on YouTube, but they are all, by their very nature, short. And so if watch time is something you care about, if you want to monetize this channel, you need to get your 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 hours of watch time. Shorts is not a very effective way of achieving that goal. If it is your goal, I don't know, I'm making an assumption. Putting shorts at the very bottom or towards the bottom, I think is a better way to go, because if people quickly scroll, they're just looking for a quick little bite-sized something, they'll probably still find that. But I think having your popular or recent uploads at the very top so they can go to the newest thing or the most popular thing, that's more effective. So I would say popular uploads first, then like 3 playlists that are ranked in what you think is most effective for your audience. Well, actually, no. Popular uploads, or those two can be inverted. Either one of those can come first. Then the 3 playlists, and then shorts at the very bottom is my advice. Because the thing with shorts is, and one thing I notice here in terms of like your most views, how far do I have to scroll before I see a short? Down here. That's several rows down. It's like 6 rows down. So shorts are not what's performing best for you. And so shorts have their place because they can go on the shorts shelf and introduce a new audience to your channel that way. And so let it do that, but don't have it take up prime real estate on your primary homepage. Because the things that do well for you is the longer form, which is great, because that gets to the core of YouTube. One of the most important metrics on YouTube in the algorithm is anticipated watch time. So people watching a 5, 9, 12, 13-minute video, whatever percentage they watch, hopefully a high percentage, it does much more positive impacts for your channel in the algorithm than if they watched a 1-minute video all the way through. So if you watch half of a 5-minute video, it's better for you than them watching a full 1-minute short. All views are not created equal. And so that's part of why I don't think shorts front and center is, I don't think that's putting your strongest foot forward. Also because, again, for all the critical things I said earlier, your thumbnails are strong, but your shorts don't really have thumbnails. And that's something I've struggled with. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how to do it because you want it to look good in the middle slice, but also on other things like here. And so I don't think that these thumbnails are going to work very well for children because they don't have the bright, colorful, friendly fonts. They got a couple smiley faces intermittently, and that rocket's kind of cool. But like the colors aren't as vibrant because they're not custom thumbnails. And so your thumbnail game is good. Use it more versus having your shorts up there. So that's good. Also, what I noticed on your About page, only 2 lines. You gotta beef that up for a couple of reasons. For one thing, the more you put in there, the more information there is for the algorithm to crunch on to understand what your channel is about. Think about some of the keywords that you target. If you're not sure, TubeBuddy can help with Keyword Explorer. We got a video about how to use it on the channel. But another thing you can do is dive into your analytics and go into traffic sources and click on YouTube search, and you can see what search terms are bringing people to your channel and your videos, and then consider, okay, how can I use those words in, proper English human sentences? You can't just keyword stuff. If you just put a bunch of keywords, you will get in trouble. Not allowed to do that. But if you can identify, your top keywords, type out a few sentences as those keywords relate to your channel, and then put that in here. Again, I would go with a why and then maybe go into that keyword stuff. But that can give you an advantage in search. And so you can come up higher in search. And so I see you've got Facebook and Instagram. They both appear to be set up properly. Let's just take a quick look to make sure those links are good and going to good places. This is going to a page, not a personal account. Good. Check the Instagram link. It looks good. It's formatted right because the icon's showing. Just want to take a look here. So you've got your custom URL, and that's fantastic. The Instagram page for Aiden and Dad YouTube channel. See, that's one of those things that I like. Let's talk about this just for a second. I know it's a channel review, but effective sharing on social media is very important. So what I would say here is that this is Instagram. It's not really a page. It's more of an account. Page isn't quite the terminology. That's sort of older web terminology. And so instead of this, you could say follow Aiden and Dad's YouTube adventures, or Aiden and Dad's adventures. And don't forget to check us out on YouTube. Or even better, let's get some keywords in there. Check out Aiden and Dad playing with model rockets, Hot Wheels monster trucks, and outdoor adventures from our YouTube channel. Something like that. And then, your pictures are good. You got some good pictures you're posting here. So that's cool stuff. I think you're using this relatively effectively. Relatively small following, but I think there might be a bit of an SEO factor on your description for the account. I think that is a thing. I do want to take a quick look into one of your videos. Now, let's take a look at the most recent one. I'm just going to pause this. Cool zoom effect to start. That's smart. That is smart. That zoom effect that's visually engaging. I think that works for kids. So that's cool. So you get a couple of likes on Facebook. 2, not very many, not to sound too harsh. So what I would consider is Facebook groups. Facebook groups for parents is huge. I run the Small YouTubers Boost Facebook group. We have over 350,000 members, and as a result, Facebook has identified me as managing a large and highly engaged group. So I am actually part of something I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to talk about it, but I actually work with Facebook. And so I am aware of some of the things going on behind the scenes. And one of the things that is huge with Facebook groups right now, like I think during the last Super Bowl, they ran an ad for Facebook groups. So that tells you how important groups are to Facebook, the platform and company right now. They are pushing it. It's important to them. It is one of their growth initiatives. Also within that, behind the scenes of the groups that I run and also in the sort of secret group I'm in, that's actually run by Facebook, is they have a lot of functionality that is targeted solely at parents. And so of the different types of Facebook groups, the one that Facebook seems to be most conscious of and aware of is those for parents. So that tells me whether it's what Facebook is looking for or what parents are looking for, huge opportunity there. Now, that's not the space I operate in, so I can take advantage of this knowledge, so I am giving it to you. It's a little bit of insider info. So there are so many Facebook groups out there that are focused on parents, and so this can be possibly where you can find a new audience. Now, you want to be very careful to observe all the rules and make sure that you're not joining groups that aren't going to be effective for you, and you're following the rules of the groups that you do join. For example, please follow the 4 rules in my group when you're there. That's for everyone, not targeting that to you specifically. It's just an ask for please everybody in our group. But that having been said, if you can find groups where maybe people are looking for wholesome activities or wholesome videos they can share with their kids, or Hot Wheels enthusiasts, and they're like, oh, how can I get my kid into it? Like, from my personal experience, when I was, growing up in the mid 80s, I love Transformers. I had tons of toys. I've actually recently sold them all and made a couple $1,000s. It was cool. But I had those toys. And then when my son was getting to that age, around age 5, there was, Transformers Prime a little bit after that, but other things, so I got him into Transformers. We got out my old toys and we had a lot of fun playing together. And that was great. But there's other things that I was really excited about and I wanted to share with my son that I could get no interest on. And if I had had some way to show him the fun he could have been having if he opened his mind to those perspectives, that would have been, as a parent, something I would have been grateful for. And so there could be Hot Wheels enthusiasts out there. And I mean, Hot Wheels have been around since forever. It's intergenerational. There's got to be at least 3 or 4 generations of Hot Wheel enthusiasts out there. And so maybe they're in a situation like that. This is just one example I thought of from my experience, where maybe you could say like, hey, maybe this video might help. Or here's how I got my kid into it. Or here's us doing this cool thing. You can try it with your set. Have you ever tried taking your Hot Wheels to the park? Have you, these sorts of things. If you can find those groups on Facebook, that could be a great source of new viewership. As well, Reddit. I noticed that this has no upvotes. I'm going to check quickly, but I don't think this has been shared on Reddit anywhere. Oh, it looks like it has. In Hot Wheels. Okay, so you're already somewhat on your way here. This is interesting. It has no upvotes. But it won't let me upvote? What's going on here? This is weird. Maybe I need to be part of the community to upvote something. Oh, no, there it is. Boom. There's your upvote. So yeah, okay, this is something. So you found a group to share it, and Hot Wheels is probably good. But again, there could be ones out there for parents that are looking for things for their kids. Also, the model rockets. I imagine there is a very strong, robust model rocket community on the internet. There's probably many of them on Reddit, on all sorts of places, Twitter, etc. And again, so your audience is children, but let's draft the parents into your army, shall we? I noticed that this has not been shared on Twitter, and so that's an easy thing to do. Go create a Twitter account, name it Aiden and Dad if you can, and in fact, let's go see if it's available. Well, look at that. May I humbly make a suggestion that you go take this username before somebody else does and lock it down? Because one of the things that various social media platforms use is there's the blue check mark, right? And again, when parents see that, I think they're more comfortable letting their children watch those channels because there's a sense of verification, of authenticity, of responsibility, of accountability, and fame and other things, success. So the assumption is with all those things, because, our culture has, a bias towards success. And so they think if you're successful, you're probably okay, that's a common thought anyways, not consistently, but it's, it's an idea. And so if you can get that blue check mark sometimes on some platform, that can be huge. And so one of the ways that you get those verified check marks is by having a consistent brand across platforms. That might be a little counterintuitive. Now, some platforms like YouTube, they have rules about how many subscribers and all this kind of stuff, but others don't. And it's a little less transparent on Twitter and Instagram and other places. And so by having consistent accounts across them, it's been revealed many years from many platforms that that's often what they do as part of that verification process. A lot of times, the purpose of the verification is to identify the real McCoy. In some platforms, you can only apply for it once you've noticed that there are imposters. And so that's kind of interesting too. But by having the first account in the name, by having the good username, by being on the platform longer, you cement yourself as this is the real account. This is the real McCoy. It's really me. And not only that, but by having a consistent look, using similar banner images and profile pictures and language and names across multiple social media platforms, when one of them wants to verify you, they go and they check those other things. And if they see it consistent, that's probably our guy. This looks like that has that follower count, whatever. It's part of the process. As well, let's say you're an overnight success. Maybe some giant channel. I don't watch Ryan's Toys, but let's pretend that, maybe you give a shout out to another, creator. I don't know if that's a thing you'd ever do, but let's pretend. And so then all of a sudden you get 1 million subscribers overnight and you blow up. Let me tell you, when you start to get some measure of success, there are going to be people out there that are going to pretend to be you. For Small YouTubers Boost, there were other groups pretending to be us. I was able to, with my Facebook rep, get them shut down for impersonation. And so when that sort of thing happens, you don't want to wake up one day to find out that someone who is not you is capitalized on your success. It's an unlikely story, but I use that example so you can just kind of imagine that moment of wow, this is amazing. I can't believe this. Wait, hold on. Who's this person pretending to me asking for GoFundMe money? Who's this person selling Bitcoin in my name? What? That's going to take your greatest triumph and make it frustrating. No, let's just take the purity of success and enjoy it and not have to fight the whack-a-mole of imposters from a place where we're behind the 8 ball, where we're chasing to catch them because they got there first. So please, I'm begging you, take the time, and it doesn't take that long to go and just sign up for Twitter. And then every time you post a video, it's so easy to share. How easy is it to share to Twitter? Watch this. You click the share button, you click the Twitter button, and then you click the tweet button. What's that, 3 clicks? 3 clicks is manageable. So surely 3 clicks, potentially to find an audience, that's every time you upload a video, click, 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 boom. You just shared it on a whole other social media platform and helped cement your brand on that and other platforms. So I think it's worth doing. It's relatively low cost. And if you're curious about how to properly set up a Twitter profile, first of all, don't worry about doing it properly necessarily. Just get that username, get your logos up there, and that is enough. But if you want to take it to the next level, sort of level 2 Twitter user, achievement, we actually have a video on this channel where I talk about what I call a Twitter profile audit, which is basically looking at your Twitter profile and making sure that it's optimized to support your YouTube channel. And it doesn't take very long. So if you want to go level 2 Twitter, go ahead. You can follow the steps in that video and it'll show you how to do it. That is pretty much my time. And so we've covered a lot of things. There's a lot more we could have gone into. For example, you can look at our Videolytics tool that will show you how to check out other videos in your niche and see how they are being shared. Since you don't get to have things like comments on your videos and you're restricted, finding ways to effectively share on Reddit and Twitter and other places, that will help you see how the big boys are doing it and the tags they're using and stuff like that. So that can inspire you to go and achieve similar success, hopefully. Some of the main points, just to review, that we covered: cleaning up some little things. I'm thinking about the easy stuff. Cleaning up some little things in the banner can make a big difference. Adding and filling out your about page more. And I really think the playlists, go and find all those videos that are not in playlists. Adding videos to playlists is generally really easy. I think possibly for kids' channels, it might be a little harder. You might need to kind of do it from the playlist editing page rather than just going from the video. That's generally how I do it, but I'm not seeing that option on your videos here. So I think that's probably because you're a kids' channel. But I think that like filling out playlist descriptions, channel description, and putting playlists and curating the look of your homepage just a little bit more could make a big difference. And I didn't get into thumbnails hugely across the board because they're really good, but again, a tiny little bit more brightness of colors can make a big difference on that younger audience. So hopefully this was helpful for you, and you can go back and rewatch as much as you want. What I'd suggest is kind of cool is come back in like a year's time and rewatch this video and kind of see how you've grown, and might remind you some things that maybe you've forgotten, because I'm constantly having to remind myself to do these things. I updated the about page and channel description for this very channel just a couple days ago because I was helping someone else, and I was like, you know what? Mine needs an update. I just realized I can do mine a little bit better. So I think it's good to do that. But thank you so much for this channel review. I appreciate it. This is fun. I enjoy doing these. And so if this is something that anyone else out there is interested in, message me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and we negotiate a price. It's dependent on my availability and busyness. It's basically the cost of 2 or 3 Big Mac meals at McDonald's can get you one of these reviews, depending on how busy I am. And so this is a lot of fun. Also, don't forget to subscribe with notifications on, because we go live on this channel without a lot of notice, and so it's when I find the time, really. And you might be able to get a free 30-minute channel review, but it's first come, first serve, so you really got to be there first if you want any hope of getting the free shorter version of this kind of a review. But thank you so much. Also, check out some of the other videos on this channel. We've got a trilogy of videos on search engine optimization. I talked about it a lot in this review, but I didn't really dive deep into how to do that. We've also got TubeBuddy tutorials, like the Keyword Explorer tutorial. That was really going to show you also about SEO and how you can optimize things like your title, description, and tags for search. We've also got a video on motivation, which can be a struggle for YouTubers, even for myself. Just taking that next step in my YouTube journey, I sometimes just really don't feel like it. So how do you get out of that rut? We've got a video that talks all about that. Maybe it'll help you get out of yours. It's part of my strategies for how I get to the next step in my journey. So thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.